So today we're going to launch our new 2020 initiative, Community Harms Directed Policing Strategy. And so I want to thank everyone for being here. We have a huge array of support from our business community, our houses of worship community, our schools, our federal agents. So we're going to start off with the introductions. We'll start on the end.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ray Alley. I'm the Deputy Director of the Michigan High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area.
Good morning, I'm Craig Summers. I'm the Director of the Michigan High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area.
Good morning, I'm Jessica Cooper. I'm the Oakland County Prosecutor.
Good morning, I'm Paul Walton, Chief Assistant Prosecutor.
Good morning and Happy New Year. Dan DiBardino from Crime Stoppers of Michigan.
Good morning, Dr. Jennifer Green, Superintendent of Schools, and joining me is our Board President, Charles Hicks.
Good morning, Steve Cooper, Director of Public Safety, City of Oak Park.
Good morning, Jason Tague, Director of Business Development for Guardian Alarm.
Good morning, Melissa Sinclair, First Response Court Advocacy Director at Haven.
Good morning, Lindsey Garcia, First Response Court Advocate assigned to the Southfield jurisdiction.
Good morning, I'm Margeret. I'm the Director of START at Haven.
Good morning, I am Mivida Burrus. I am the Director of Development at Haven.
And thank you. And standing here, Chief.
Good morning, I'm Nick Lucia. I'm the Deputy Chief. I oversee the Investigations Division.
Chief.
I'm Brian Bassett.
Okay, and standing with us also as our members of our Chaplain Corps and our Chief Citizens Advisory. So please introduce yourselves.
Judy Womble. Mary Seegers.
Good morning, Willie Anderson.
Anthony Bowens.
Rosemary Allen.
Sharon Pannell.
Chiquetta Mia.
Lois Jones.
Comeek People.
Alan Shaw. Harmon Gunther.
Okay, so today, again, we're going to launch our strategy of community policing, repeat, community harms directed policing. Most police departments measure success by way of reductions in violent crime and property crime. Those crimes will continue to be a top priority of the Southfield Police Department. But under the community harms directed policing model, we sought information from our community, our residents. What should we be focusing on as an agency to affect quality of life issues? So I had the opportunity to meet with this group standing behind me, again, our advisory board members and our chaplain corps, and they provided me with a number of community harms that we should focus on. So we're going to go over the document and address what the issues were and what we're doing to address them. What led the initiative was domestic violence. No secret, domestic violence is plaguing this nation, and it has made impacts here in Southfield. When you look at the data, it suggests that we are responding to over 1,500 domestic calls for service on an annual basis. So in response to that, we've partnered with Haven, who are represented in the room today. We've partnered with the Domestic Violence Group, and these organizations, we're looking for plans in 2020 of doing seminars, domestic violence walks, prevention and awareness strategies to impact the level of violence affected in these domestic violence situations. When you look at domestic violence incidents, they not only affect the victim, but our responding members as well. Data suggests that domestic violence incidents has a high priority of calls for service and do affect officers responding to these incidents. And we have our prosecutor as well standing with us. I met with the prosecutor early on in my tenure here, and she was able to listen to this strategy. She supported this strategy and definitely told this police department that she had our best interests. When you look at domestic violence as a whole, this police department, officers are trained at managing domestic violence incidents. We respond very quickly. We understand the laws that surround domestic violence, and if a domestic violence incident occurs and there's probable cause to believe that that suspect committed it, we do take the proper police action. In addition to that, we have what's called a danger assessment form. This form is given to all victims of domestic violence in the event a report is generated. And that form captures high risk as it relates to homicides related to the domestic violence incidents. That form is shared with our court section and also given to our representatives at Haven, who use that information to better serve the community. Traffic safety was another high priority. No matter what meeting I go to as a police chief, someone always approaches me, Chief, what are you doing about speeders on my block? What are you doing about individuals who are disregarding traffic control devices? So in response to that, we have established a traffic safety bureau, and we deploy very strategically based on accident data and citizen complaints. This unit launched November 7th. They've been very effective in reducing the number of complaints that's coming in, the accidents that are occurring, and I got to give it to the community for understanding that this initiative, again, is about accident and complaints. We will not, and I repeat, we will not use tickets as a measure to generate revenue, but to decrease risk behavior as it relates to driving. The next issue that we dealt with as an agency with the active shooter. Nationally, it's an issue that's occurring, and the police department has addressed those issues. So we started out with partnering with the community organizations. And we started out with partnering with the Southfield Community Coalition, the Detroit Police Department, and the Southfield Fire Department. And as some of you know, we put on a community response to active shooter events in the pavilion. That allowed our residents an opportunity to understand how to best manage themselves to survive an assault occurring in the fashion of an active shooter. In addition to that, this police department is highly trained. We have rigorous training occurring on an annual basis where they understand the importance of communicating, response times, and being courageous to stop the violence. And so this police department coordinates with our partnering organizations, our federal organizations, and sitting here with us is one of our next door neighbors, our chief over at the Oak Park Police Department. Thank you, sir, for being here. When we move into the next issue of community engagement, our schools, our youth, are high priority. And I'm going to say that again, a high priority. And we have with us Dr. Green. Got to start off by saying my first few months in this police department, she met with me. We discussed expectations. We discussed school resource officer deployment. And we put together a strategy to deploy a 2020 youth mentoring initiative. We're going to start it in our high schools. We identified Southfield A&T as the one we're going to initiate the program with to affect our youth. And to accompany that youth engagement, we've already started partnering with some of the charitable organizations, Boys to Men, for example, My Brother's Keeper. So we're actively involved with our youth. And some of the agenda items when we talk to these youth focus on mentoring, coaching, interactions with people of authority, conflict resolution. Let me say that again, conflict resolution, because these are the issues that our youth are plaguing on a day-to-day basis. And we have a really robust, I got to give it to the community relations unit in this police department. They're highly respected amongst our community. They spend a lot of their time in the community dealing with citizens, dealing with complaints, and they also get involved in our schools as well. So just to put a framework on it, they have done work in our preschools doing celebrity reader events, puppet shows, career days, badges and books to let the preschoolers have a feeling for police at an early age. They move to our middle schools and do social media safety. We all know the importance of social media, how that impacts our youth. Bullying, personal safety, and even bicycle safety will be an initiative for 2020. Human trafficking. And so, as you all know, there's been national awareness for human trafficking and on a national level. And many of our residents are concerned as if this could impact the city of Southfield. So, Chief, what are we doing to respond to this threat of human trafficking? And so we've partnered with the Southeast Michigan Trafficking Exploitation Crimes Task Force. This is a FBI-sponsored task force where they coordinate with surrounding jurisdictions. We share information. If there's an incident that occurs, we'll say in one of our neighboring cities, we all get the information. We work in tandem to affect those particular individuals who choose to go down that path. In response to that, we also have a a very robust communication with the Detroit Police Department. As you know, with the auto show coming, there could be a propensity for human trafficking. In years past, Southfield Police Department was used as a mechanism for the headquarters of the human trafficking task force. So again, communication, awareness, these strategies will be maintained. Southfield has a large population of massage parlors. When you look at the data, national data, it suggests that over 9,000 massage parlors have been involved in some type of prostitution or even human trafficking. So what are we doing about that? So this police department, headed with the investigations department under Chief Lucia, mandates that we do inspections of our massage parlors. In fact, as a result of an inspection, arrests were made on a massage parlor very recently, where 2 people were taken into custody. And so, again, this police department is continuing to dive into the social issues that affect our community. The next issue that we know that plagues us as a society is illegal drug use. And so, my good friend, as I started here within the first 2 weeks, I was approached by Mrs. Tiffany Tilley. She oversees the Southfield Community Anti-Drug Coalition, and we've gotten off to a really good partnership. Ms. Tilley has brought us in. We partnered with the Oakland County Alliance, and we put on a Narcan training right here in this very room, where we armed our citizens with Narcan device. We educated them on the use of that device, and that way, if there is an individual suffering from a narcotic overdose, our citizens, prior to even our arrival, are able to make a difference and save lives. So thank you, Mrs. Tiffany Tilley, for bringing us in on that project. Very, 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 very much. The Southfield Police Department, we also deploy Narcan with all of our officers. And as another success story, within the 6 months that I've been here, there have been 4 people who responding officers were able to revive who were suffering from drug overdose. And so again, very quick response times, attention to detail, and we potentially save lives on these matters. And I get a lot of concerns about the Northland development. And so as you know, the city of Southfield is developing that Northland site. It will be a home to hotels, businesses, a lot of activity, entertainment. And so the community asks, well, Chief, is the city planning on having a police presence there? So the answer to that is yes. The area will be occupied by a police presence, maybe even, as the plans continue to be developed, a public safety presence involving the fire department and the police department. And so our citizens will enjoy having access to police officers on the site. If there's an incident, we'll respond very quickly and keep the public trust. And with all these initiatives, it's really about public trust. And when you may ask yourself, well, Chief, why do you put this plan down on a document and share it with the community? That way you can hold me accountable for these initiatives. If I say I'm going to do it, then do it. And so the document, again, has been shared. The partners have been established. As you look around this room, they're eager to be part of this initiative, and we're going to make a difference. This city will continue to be a city of excellence, continue to be a citizen, and the center of it all. So I'm going to allow some of our guests to speak, because I don't want you to just hear from the police chief. I want you to hear from our stakeholders in the room, some of our community leaders, and some of our partners. But I'm going to start off with our great Congresswoman, Brenda Lawrence. Please.
All right. Good morning.
I just want to tell you that leadership happens when those who have the responsibility understand that there is a responsibility and take that role. You see, standing with the police chief are members of this community. These are citizens like myself, and the reason why I'm here is because I want a community where I feel safe. And I am so excited to hear that there has been the intentional planning and leadership and coalition building. I see around this room, like my county prosecutor, those in law enforcement. How can we ensure that our citizens are safe? So my appreciation to all of Southfield Finest, I see so many of you in the room, to the chief, to our residents who know that you can't just sit behind your door and point the finger and say, you do it. It's all hands on deck. That's what makes a community great. And so this is what I see happening. So I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you, ma'am. And you all know who I'm bringing up next? Dr. Mayor Kenson Siver.
Good morning, all. Good morning. How you doing? These are the greatest volunteers. When the chief shared with me what he had planned, I was absolutely thrilled. You know, we pride ourselves on response, but it's really about responding is great, and we have great response times, but it's about being proactive. And that's what all of this is. It's about being proactive, trying to avoid situations before they occur. And I have to congratulate the department on this initiative. A great concern of mine is domestic violence. I've said this before, every morning, first thing I do is get the police log from the day before. And sadly, I don't think a day goes by that hasn't been a police run for domestic violence. We just had Martin Luther King Day. We had a wonderful celebration. We are about peace, brotherhood, nonviolence, and some people are not getting that message. You know, we do great things in this community, and we have a great deal of cohesiveness. We get along, and sometimes I think I live in a bubble because of the level of tolerance that we have and appreciation for our diversity. But one thing that we've got to keep working on is nonviolence. To me, it is sad that you can't resolve differences through amicable ways of discussing things or walking away rather than resorting to violence. So I know your efforts will help all of that, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And we all know our prosecutor, our Oakland County prosecutor, Mrs. Jessica Cooper. Please come up.
I want to thank you for inviting me here and being part of this community. Many of you know that this is where I started my career. My picture's still over there in the courthouse. But I think that for all of these years, this is sort of my hometown. And I live just a bit down the street. And what I say to people all of the time is that what is the most important thing that we can do is people live in our county because it's safe. And the most important thing is to keep it safe. And the way in which we do that is the activities with all of these partners together. Because my most important job, aside from prosecuting, is to prevent crime. And now I'm here in watching and seeing these groups together and seeing, you know, the chief who's come and said, okay, the way in which we're dealing with this is not only being able to respond and respond quickly, but the more important thing is that working with groups, we can respond, we can prevent crime, we can save lives, with Narcan, all of these programs. And it's all of us working together that keeps this county safe, that keeps this community safe, that keeps this city safe, and I'm just really honored to be standing next to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. As mentioned before, schools is a high priority. We have a great doctor here. Got a lot of doctors in the room. And so let's bring up Dr. Jennifer Green.
Good morning, and thank you. I asked our board president to join me this morning. We are extremely grateful to have such a phenomenal police department led by Chief Barren. Yes. The partnership is imperative to our success. People move into communities for several reasons, the top being that of safety, that of schooling, and that of services. And I am very fortunate to say that we have it all right here in Southfield. Our vision must be tightly coupled with that of the police department, particularly when it involves engaging our youth, because it can be an adversarial relationship or it can be one where we work in tandem. And I'm again glad to say that it is one where we work in tandem. Behaviors in youth are not innate, they are something that are taught. Therefore, we want to act as role models. We want to show our children what the appropriate behaviors are. More importantly, we want to teach them the problem-solving skills that they need to be successful. Secondly, it's important that we work in tandem given the issues that the chief mentioned throughout our community. Those same issues are brought into our schools each and every day. Therefore, we have to know, one, what the issues are, and two, what are the current best practices on how to approach those. So we are working with our teaching staff on trauma-informed instruction. We have numerous partners with our healthcare providers, with our anti-drug coalition. Very fortunate to say that we have the anti-drug coalition working in our building. We have mental health care services in every building in our school district at no cost to our community through our partnerships. And last but definitely not least, we want to break the pipeline to prison. And we can only do that through education. Our focus is not only educating those in grades pre-K through 12. We have opened our doors to our entire community, and we will be educating our adults as well through many of the partnerships that you see today.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. And as you heard the good doctor speaking, she mentioned that same term I used, the Southfield Anti-Drug Coalition, oversaw by Ms. Tiffany Tilley. So please introduce yourself. Come on up here.
I'm a little tall. Good morning. My name is Tiffany Tilley. I am the director of the Southfield Community Anti-Drug Coalition. I really appreciate the partnership with the chief, the partnership with Dr. Green at the schools, and you bringing all of us together, all of the unity that's here in this room.
Thank you.
Our mission is to decrease not only substance use, but the effects of substance use. Like the chief said, we worked to put on the Narcan training. It was a great training. We're going to put on another one on April 2nd here in this room at 6 p.m. It's so important to get those kids out. You may have a family member that has a medical emergency. You may see a stranger and you have the kid in your car. And you can help with that medical emergency. So the training is so important. So we appreciate everything you do. The chief came aboard and has not missed one meeting. He has been totally committed. Thank you.
And I want to address this whole domestic violence issue. I want a representative for domestic violence. A few of you here, so I don't want to get in trouble. Who's the representative? Thank you. Thank you.
We are so excited to be partnering with Chief Barren and Deputy Lucia. They've come to Haven, they have toured our facility, and they truly understand how domestic and sexual violence not only impacts victims, but deeply, deeply impacts communities. 1 in 3 Michigan families right now is experiencing domestic violence.
That's right.
I promise you, you know them, you love them, and you care for them. What we do at Haven is we operate in an empowerment philosophy where survivors, their loved ones, and community members can come to learn about power and control, to learn about domestic violence, to learn how to keep themselves safe, and to learn that most importantly, nothing that they have done has caused this to them. They don't deserve this, and it is not their fault.
Wow.
Haven comes alongside survivors as they walk their journey in whichever way they choose. We do not force, coerce, or make people leave violent relationships, because what we know at Haven is leaving is the absolute most dangerous time. It is the most dangerous time, and it is the time where homicide is the most likely. Leaving is not easy. It takes time, it takes a good plan, and it most importantly takes community support, which is why we are so honored to partner with Southfield Police. We have had a long-standing relationship with them. We look forward to continuing to strengthening that, and we look forward to seeing domestic and sexual violence eradicated, not only in Southfield, not only in Oakland County, but throughout our society, because that is what women and children deserve.
Woo. Thank you. Thank you. And is there a representative for domestic violence group? The group, domestic violence group?
Oh, with Margeret.
Margeret Hall? Is anyone here for? Please come up. Please come up. So this partnership with domestic violence extends. And so we have multiple partnerships. And Ms. Hall came to visit. We introduced this mindset, this strategy, and she locked in right away. Ms. Hall, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so honored to be here. As you can see, this is very exciting for everybody. Southfield is the center of it all. We are 20 minutes from everything, and everybody wants to come here. So we want to come together and have safety. We want people to feel safe, not only when they come here, but when they go to bed at night, when they wake up and go to school. As a teacher and educator, I'm glad to see we have education in this room today. As a former trustee on Southfield, I love the fact that you're so involved with youth and are impacting them with an agenda, because the village is important. We have to reincorporate the village, because the village is how I grew up. I'm standing here today because I was a part of a village who looked out for me when my parents weren't around. So you are looking today at the village, and you need to give yourselves a round of applause.
Wow. Thank you. And when we look at impacting illegal drug use and whatnot, a partnership did emerge from MIHIDTA. Within the first month of me being here, I was contacted by the director and the deputy director with the idea of a overdose mapping system. It's a national database that in the event police officers or our fire department responds to fatal or non-fatal overdoses, that information is gathered, is collected, placed into this national database, so we share amongst partnering agencies. If there's a spike in overdoses, we'll know where it's occurring. The data will suggest who some of the perpetrators may be, the victims, the type of narcotics used. So without further ado, Director, please come up and expound on the overdose mapping. And thank you for your partnership.
This is my Deputy Director, Ray Ali. My name is Craig Summers. I am the Director of the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Program. Basically, we're a federal grant program out of the Office of National Drug Control Policy. Thank you, Congresswoman Lawrence. We are funded by Congress for her support. I've actually met with the Congresswoman in her office, and she's been a big supporter of us. We work in drug trafficking and money laundering organizations throughout the state. We work with our federal, state, and local partners to identify those drug trafficking organizations, money laundering organizations, and get the deadly drugs off the street. But as Chief mentioned, we do something else that's equally important. We've been partnering with our public health partners to save lives. You all know we have a drug use epidemic in our state.
Yeah.
Overdose, heroin, fentanyl. We're working on the law enforcement side to get the drugs, the fentanyl, and the heroin and that off the streets. We're working with our public health partners, both prevention and treatment, to get the real-time data so they know where the folks need help and we get the folks the help they need in real time. The two systems the chief talked about, ODMAP and a system for overdose surveillance, which is our partnership with the University of Michigan Injury Center, provide public health and public safety real-time data on where people are overdosing so that law enforcement and public health can do something about it. Thank you, Chief, for your partnership.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention community support. So you see that the Southfield Police Department does a lot in the community for holidays, for our schools, our children. But we have help. And so I'm going to call up Mr. Hassan Fayad from 411 Therapy, and also Mr. George Atchu. Come on up. Thanks, sir. Go ahead.
Oh. I think it's good morning. Just getting put on the spot, but there's one thing I gotta tell you guys. When I speak from the heart. I never planned on it. We didn't plan on speaking today, but you know what? Let's get the point across. Leadership, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm a business owner and a leader in the community of Southfield and Detroit. Big difference, but again, Chief Barren came from Detroit. Great leadership, response time, community involvement. I can't tell you guys, hey, we just pick up the phone call. They're right there, right then, and then they put all the time and effort into it. So for me, that's a big thing because, you know what, and the best part about this, he never misses, like everybody says, he never misses an event, which is actually true. He never misses an event, and he actually works a lot harder than me at the event, especially when it's freezing and it's outside. So with that said, I don't know if you guys were watching the news yesterday about sex trafficking. As a 411 leader and based out of Southfield and Detroit, as of today, we're starting a nonprofit sex trafficking enforcement, which will sponsor it. We just need the help, the bodies, just to start attacking it every week, every day, every minute, every hour, especially being a Detroit resident and a Southfield business owner. We can attack it based on the borderlines, 8 miles, and you know, the other area in Detroit. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Chief, for putting me on the spot. Great leadership. Thank you, guys, and we can make a difference and take it to the next level. Appreciate it.
Good morning. I'm George Atchu, business owner, Suburban Liquor Shop. Been in the city for the last 52 years, and I want to thank Chief Barren for asking me to attend this function. And since Chief Barren has taken over the Southfield Police Department, I noticed that there's been some changes, good changes, and really we appreciate you being here, sir.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll open up the floor for questions. Please, if you have any questions, we'll open up the floor.
Chief, how did you come up with the actual categories? Was it a hand survey that delivered to people, or were you hosting events? How did you get the response?
Yeah, a couple ways. One, as you mentioned, when I arrived, attended many different community events, listened to the concerns of the community, and then I got really intimate with this project, with these people behind me. And so we meet monthly with the Chief Citizen Advisory Board and also our chaplains, and I asked them, tell me what the concerns that you have. What are the concerns that you're hearing in the community we should address? And then the board listed those items, and we're making measures to effect them.
Were you surprised? I was a little surprised that there weren't more like violent crimes listed here, like homicides, things like that.
Right, and as you know, Southfield, we have a measure of a safe city. And so not to say that crimes don't occur here, but this document, as I mentioned earlier, is about community harms, social issues, environmental issues, violent crimes, property crimes. Will maintain a top priority for this police department, but this document just outlines community-focused harms that the community feels we should put at the top of the list as well. Thank you.
And in terms of your former boss speaking out yesterday about the black market for marijuana and how he's seen an increase in crime, shootings, homicides as a result of the black market where the marijuana is cheaper than where people can buy. And I'm not sure the status of Southfield, if you were opt-out city or not. Have you seen the same sort of thing here?
Okay, and we'll start with the city's position. So the city of Southfield has opted out of any recreational marijuana. However, we are moving forward with medical marijuana. And as of to date, we have not seen any increases in crime. That'll be something to be our responsibility as an agency to ensure that when the city moves forward with the standing up of the medical dispensaries, that we do proper inspections, that we ensure that we have a police presence there to reduce any instances of violence. Okay, so I want to thank, question.
Yes, I have a question about the human trafficking being included on the list. Is it a concern in Southfield because you have a lot of hotels? Just wondering why I was a little surprised to see that one on the list.
Okay, and so as I mentioned earlier, human trafficking is a national epidemic. And so we always have to be mindful of what's happening in our city. And you mentioned it, there are a number of hotels in our city. And so the mayor asked me early in my tenure, he said, Chief, I want a report that measures what's happening in our hotels. So we put together a report, a monthly report that goes out to the city leadership that outlines cost of services to our hotels. We break those down to see what happened, who the individuals were, and if there's a suggestion, let's say, of human trafficking, if there's a suggestion of narcotic sales, if there's a suggestion that the owners or managers are participating in illegal occupations, then we will address those with a sense of urgency. Yes, ma'am.
On a federal level, I'm sure that we fund training for our local law enforcement officers. The one thing that I've always been so proud of Southfield Police Department is the investment in training and being prepared. With all of these initiatives that you're doing, you know, if you've ever witnessed our Southfield Police addressing a domestic violence situation, you can tell we have a trained police department. What are some of the things in your leadership as chief that you will be investing in our police department to achieve these initiatives?
Yes, and we can use the document to kind of guide that. And when you speak of active shooter, to ensure that our members are properly equipped, continue to inspect our equipment, our safety ballistic vests, make sure we're rotating those out, our weapons, looking at accuracy. We're recently looking at a modification to our rifles. Again, not trying to turn the police department into a military, but to ensure that if there's an incident, that our members are able to act very quickly and address a violent predator with accuracy. When you look at issues that affect us in our traffic component, accidents do occur in the city of Southfield. We have a daytime index of approximately 150,000 daily, Monday through Friday. And so training in our deployment, we've deployed what we call a drug recognition expert. I'll say it again, a drug recognition expert. And this individual, he has the ability to deploy in the field if there's an individual who chooses to drive while impaired and they choose to use illegal substances such as marijuana, heroin, cocaine. Now the technology allows us to do a data analysis where a swab is conducted. That information is put into the reader, and if that person is impaired, then that person will be arrested and prosecuted. So this is just a few of the initiatives looking forward for training our members to affect quality of life and safety issues. Okay, so at this point, I would like to thank everyone for being here. If there's no more questions. Sir.
I have a question. Again, I want to make a quick statement back to the point about
it takes a village to raise a child, but you have to raise the village first. Children live up to the expectations, and I can't say enough about Southfield, going back to when former mayor to now, my introductions to me, I serve Orchard's Children's Services, and each one of our children touch all of you. We partner with Haven, but I think it's really imperative that we understand that your force is impeccable. The amount of time they spend with our children. I remember the first time I met the chief with an 8-year-old boy whose father had been violated by police, and chief spent an hour with that child, and that child said, I didn't know police were like that.
Wow.
And that's the kind of thing that we have to do a better job of in terms of, and being a men as well.
Right.
So I just wanted to recognize the work and effort. We service 8,000, we touch the schools, we touch substance abuse, the prosecutor's office. Hopefully that we don't have to do it a lot.
Right. 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 Right.
It should be dealt with. And
Yeah.
I just can't thank you enough for allowing me to come to Southfield, being from Flint, which is known for different reasons now than it was when I was in Flint.
Okay.
You know, how you made my children and our children feel safe. So
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So in closing, I want to thank our media friends for being here. It's important to get the word out. I know we have the stations, we have radio, we have news outlets here, and this relationship is going to continue. I know a number of you approached me when I arrived, the chief, can we get a little bit more communication from the Southfield Police Department? You work with us in Detroit, can you work with us here? And so that was a commitment that I made, that we will share information at the appropriate time. As you know, sometimes we have to hold off on information, but we will be sharing information at the appropriate time. So I thank you for sharing the message with us. So again, thank you all.